think we could have some good news on the Iran front. Likewise with Hamas on Gaza. We want to see if we can stop that. And Israel, we've been talking to them, and we want to see if we can stop that whole situation as quickly as possible. But having to do with nuclear, we've had some very, very good talks with Iran, and I don't know if I'll be telling you anything good or bad over the next 2 days, but I have a feeling I might be telling you something good. We've had some real progress, serious progress.
That's President Trump discussing the status of nuclear talks with Iran. This morning, Iranian officials say they may allow U.S. inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency to inspect Iranian nuclear sites if talks with Washington succeed. Iran's president says the regime will survive regardless, even if no nuclear deal is made. Axios, meanwhile, reporting that President Trump warned Benjamin Netanyahu last week about escalating things with Iran right now and potentially upending negotiations with the United States. Joining me right now is the exiled Crown Prince of Iran, His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi. Your Royal Highness, thank you so much for being here.
Good to be back with you, Maria.
What is your reaction to Iran now saying that inspectors can come in?
Look, it's not the first time we hear this, and we have seen that the pattern of behavior of this regime has led most observers, including politicians, whether here or in Europe, figure out that how trustworthy is the regime at the end of the day? How many times have they been dubious? How many times have they blocked actual access of the IAEA to inspections of nuclear sites and what have you? I'm talking about the last 2 decades. So this is not a new discovery. The point that I'd like to make, however, Maria, and that's the key element, is that this regime is at its weakest right now. And at the same time, you see that inside Iran, there's so much protests and strikes going on. This is an opportunity to put an end to the problem. And I believe that the ultimate solution is not going to be achieved as a result of whatever the negotiation seems to be promising, but by helping the Iranian people overcome this regime, which is the root cause of the problem. This is the best guarantee of putting an end to all the crises. This opportunity is right now in front of us. And the regime, the minute they feel threatened or weakened, has always tried to deflect attention from itself, promising this or promising that, trying to dupe the outside world into the fact that, yes, maybe this time it will make a difference, but it hasn't. President Trump is someone who understands a good deal versus a bad deal. There was good reason why he stepped away from the first JCPOA. This is a condition in which we want to see if exactly what the president expects to happen will happen through this deal. So far, I don't see any indication. And at the end, I will tell you, I'd like to read the entire book before I can offer my opinion on it. We have yet to finish this book. Let's see how it pans out.
I think this is a very important point that you make, because we've been down this road before. And that is why I asked you, do you think that this is real, that inspectors can go in? So what should President Trump be doing then, given the fact that he's trying to do a deal and yet others say they're this close to the enrichment that they can have for a nuclear weapon?
That and more, because it's a multidimensional issue when you deal with this regime. The nuclear threat is just one aspect of the regime's potential threats that it brings along with itself and its nature in the whole region. Look, when the regime had access to over $200 billion worth of revenue that it shouldn't have had, that was released to them under the laxing of sanctions by the Biden administration, what was it utilized for? It was not just a nuclear issue. It was the propagation of their terror. It was reinforcing their proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah. I would even say that today's rampant radicalism that you see today on college campuses in Europe and the West is a net result of the continuation of this regime propagating its radicalization. So even if you were to, by miracle, come to a point that the regime actually agrees to complete stoppage of enrichment, which I doubt will happen. But let's assume for the sake of argument that even if that was done, what about the rest? Is that sufficient to calm tension in the region? Will be satisfactory to Jerusalem and Riyadh and the rest of the neighborhood? And ultimately, do you think that this will be an element that will say, all right, problem solved, let's go and deal with MAGA or other issues?
Yeah.
I don't see that happen.
Well, Your Highness, I think when you said a moment ago, we have to underline this, Iran is at its weakest. The people have risen. The people want change. You've had this Iranian truck drivers on strike right now, and the strikes are continuing this week.
Yes.
Today, protests first broke out last week. They've spread to 130 cities across 30 provinces. They're standing against a rise in insurance premiums, poor road security, high fuel prices, and low freight rates. Middle East experts are urging the Trump administration to support this strike. You've said nonviolent civil disobedience like this can bring down the regime. Do you expect that? How much more significant does this need to get to bring down the regime?
Well, you know, it's always has been my school of thought that nonviolent civil disobedience is the best method to achieve a peaceful end, as well as bringing the least cost possible to the nation achieving that end, versus other scenarios of armed struggle or what have you, or as a result of foreign invasions or occupation. The Iranian people are ready today to go beyond this regime. They are demanding that, and every signal that they send to the whole world is, listen, we are the agent of change. We are the people you should cut a deal with, not this regime. We are on the streets fighting. We are protesting. And it's not just because they have reasons to protest. This regime has been incapable of providing the most basic needs of society. Electricity, water. We have yet to be in the heat of the hot summer months. Imagine what will happen then, on top of everything. It's just a powder keg that is ready to explode. Now, because we are in this momentum, this is why I said, I think last time we spoke,
yes,
that this is a window of opportunity not to miss. Because in the meantime, if there's a clock ticking on the other side, this is a perfect opportunity to avert a situation that could escalate should there be no result in what this president hopes will be achieved as a result of a nuclear negotiation. Do we have the luxury of time to waste? While this is going on, we should not be only focused on the negotiation. So when the president talks about not escalating it, it's beyond what he asks. It is escalating in Iran.
That's right.
You cannot ignore that as a true fact. So it has to be part of the calculation. The people are on the streets. Why not utilize this opportunity? Because the regime is on its knees, is really on its back heel.
Yeah.
It has been too many times, and guess what, Maria? Every time we were close to it, another lifeline has been thrown to this regime. Are we going to yet again throw another lifeline to this regime?
So should he stop pursuing a deal right now?
I'm not saying he should stop diplomacy. In fact, I think one of the reasons the president has done that is to tell the world, hey, I'm going to at least give this process a chance.
Right.
Now, how realistic his expectation is, despite what he says for media consumption, we'll have to see. But the real issue, as you indicated, people in Iran are now up in arms. It's going to spread. I mean, it's just the truck drivers. It's the bakers. It's so many other sectors of society that are all affected collectively. And as you know, the most important thing in any industry, in any country's economy, is transportation.
Yeah.
If you paralyze the transportation grid, it has a huge impact. It paralyzes the system. That's how you bring an extremely repressive regime down at the least cost possible.
That is an incredible point. Iran reportedly executed a man accused of spying for Israel. He was originally arrested in 2020 for trying to send Israel classified information about Iran's critical locations. This is the second reported execution of an alleged Israeli spy in 2 months, Your Highness. I want to get your take on that, because I think that President Trump's trip to the Middle East 2 weeks ago was also impactful, because Iran is seeing the United States gain allies in the Middle East. Do you agree?
Look, under his first administration, President Trump brought an element of maximum pressure. In what way did that have an impact? You talk about executions. Between the period of President Obama and President Biden, during the first term of President Trump's administration, the number of executions in Iran was cut in half. It was half of what it was between the other two, which means that when you bring pressure on this regime, it
backs off.
It doesn't start taking more hostages. In fact, it was only 6 months after JCPOA that this regime took Navy personnel on an American ship in the Persian Gulf and detained them. And so many other elements, and more hostages were taken. It was 6 at the time. It became almost 30 post the first term of President Trump. Now, that indicates that there is reason why the regime responds to pressure. But what we've been arguing all along is pressure is good, but it's not sufficient.
Okay.
Maximum support, which is the perfect moment to do it right now,
Yes.
should be part of the strategy.
Yeah.
That is a quicker way to put an end to the problem, because you don't have to worry about the regime any longer coming along with you. The people of Iran are your solution, not this regime.
Reza Pahlavi, you are making a big difference. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mary.
We so appreciate you, Your Highness, and your leadership.
Thank you so much.
Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi. We'll be right back.